Welcome to Crop Talks and Field Walks. I'm Kayla Bergman, the Sustainability Lead with Innovative Ag Services, and today we have a special guest for our episode. I'm excited to introduce to you Lillie Beringer-Crock, who was recently the 2024 Iowa Women Conservation of the Year. She is a third-generation grower, and I have been working with her for several years on her conservation practices. Welcome, Lillie.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Lillie, share us a little about your operation and your location.
Yeah, so like Kayla mentioned, my name's Lillie Beringer with Beringer Family Farms. I'm a third-generation beef farmer outside of Cascade, Iowa. So my grandpa started farming in the 1950s, and then it was my dad and my uncle, and now I'm one of 26 grandchildren that's taking over our family operation. As I mentioned, we're primarily beef farmers. When grandpa was here, we mostly were feedlot, 600 pounds till finish. Now we have a good mix of finishing out our own cattle, the cow herd, finishing out our home-raised calves, backgrounding, really kind of tied to all different aspects of the beef industry. And to be honest, the crop side has been always the last thing on my agenda, and it's just not something that I was not familiar with growing up. When grandpa was here, we hired somebody to custom plant and combine, so it's not something that I really took part of when I was younger. And so it's been a learning experience for sure of where we are today. So we actually were a complete 180 since I've came home. We were 100% corn on corn tillage, and I've switched everything to no-till with cover crops on a corn bean rotation, which is like, in the past 5 years, that's a huge, big, drastic change. Our biggest problem or challenge here on the farm is sand. We live on a beach sand. We literally have barred concrete come in and take dump truck loads of sand out to dairies. I mean, that's the stuff that we're trying to grow stuff on. And so in a drought year, everybody looks at our stuff and they're wondering what we're doing. And so to add these type of practices, a lot of people are like, that might be hurting yourself worse. But really what kind of got me started on it was I love the cows. That's basically what I do every day is take care of the cows. And so 4 years ago, one of our neighbors had some 60-inch rows with cover crops, and they asked if we wanted to custom graze our cows on it. And I was like, yeah, sure. So I grazed my cows, it fed my cows, plus I've learned all of the different benefits that you get on top of just feeding your own animals. And that's really kind of how we've slowly built from there. So.
All right, great. Can you talk about the benefits that you've seen from these conservation practices on your farm?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've learned it's definitely a marathon, not a sprint. And my biggest stopping point in the beginning was just convincing my parents that this was a good idea to do. It's very easy for your parents to get stuck in generations ago farming, and this is definitely newer practices. And I have a very newer, more advanced, research-driven mind, which is completely different than how my dad operates. This is the way that it's worked. This is what we're doing. And so the biggest thing was just getting them on board, or not really even getting them on board, but just having them give me the reins to make the decisions and let me fail or learn or whatever. Yep. And so our very first year was a fail. Absolutely. I did 60-inch rows, and not knowing a thing about crops, told you I don't know a thing about crops. I worked with the person that my parents had worked with for years. It's the first year we switched things over from corn on corn and did all of this. I didn't know at the time what water hemp was or cucumber or any of that, and whoa, it was bad. And this is really where I switched working with who my parents were working with and got in with Innovative Ag and the wonderful agronomist Dylan that I work with out of Farley. He saved me that summer, and I've learned so much since then, and that was 3-4 years ago. And now ever since then, oh my gosh, so many different things. One, it feeds our cows. So the main thing that I just absolutely love about it is we put rye in the fall, and then I calve my spring herd on the rye. And so they calve, they get moved over onto the field. Calves are healthy, feeds cows, perfect situation. Then we plant green into it, spray it. We got really good weed control there. Obviously, like I said, I have sand, so I'm trying to build some topsoil. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And then just learn a little bit every single year. And the nice thing, I guess, is everybody always says, oh, as soon as you add these practices, you're gonna lose yield. Well, our yield has always been the same with these practices. So actually really probably in the long run is making me more money because we're not doing the tillage, so we're not having to go across the field and do all of that. But then this year when we got a lot of rain and I had everything kind of line up, like we had the highest yields we've ever had on this field. And out of my dad's mouth, he said it's the best crop he's seen on this farm in 55 years.
Wow, that's awesome.
Pretty proud of that.
Speaking of money, can you talk about the True Terra programs that you've enrolled in and how that's helped you implement these new practices on your farm?
Yeah, so like I said, that's kind of really all on you and Dylan as my agronomist. They're the ones that kind of were like, hey, you know, do you want to try this? And anytime like you can try to get some cost share for practices that you're going to try for the first time, because like I said, this isn't anything we've ever done before. We always just tilled it. And actually the reason why like my parents and really even me initially were kind of hesitant to it is we have a feedlot and we have manure, and I was like, well, anytime we've all been taught when you have manure it has to get incorporated, so that's why we always had to disc it or chisel it in. But after working with Dylan and then talking to other people that are doing these type of practices where they're like, no, you can just put the manure on the top and it's fine, that was kind of the big game changer for us. And then that's when we started switching really every single thing over. First started with 20 acres, signed up on the program, and the next year I was like, hey, let's do another 60. And it's just really great to see, one, the benefits of it, but then have some financial assistance on it too.
Absolutely. What advice do you have for other growers that are considering using the True Terra program through IAS?
A couple things. One would be to start, make sure you have the right people on your team. Like I had mentioned, I learned that the hard way my very first year into the crop side, but once I had the right people that I was working with that had the same vision and goals with what I wanted to do that year and years to come, it really just kind of all came together. And then my second thing would be start small. I mean, it's not like you have to convert your whole farm at once. I started with 20 acres and now we're at 240 acres over a 5-year period that we've all converted to these practices. But if you're, hesitant to it, you don't know how it's going to work, then just choose one small field, see how it does that year and continue to build on it year after year.
And what does being an IAS cooperative member mean to you?
Yeah, good question. So I probably have maybe a little bit more unique of a situation than other people because I'm actually a past employee of Innovative Ag. So I'm very, very familiar with the company. I worked 5 years on the feed side before farming full time. So I really just think Innovative Ag in general, no matter whether you're on the feed or agronomy side, works really good at just trying to incorporate everything together so it makes a nice team effort and to make sure that like you as the producer are succeeding, so then we as IAS can succeed. Obviously, if I wouldn't be coming back working with the company if I didn't have a positive experience while I was there, and so now I'm just in a little bit different role of being the actual customer side. So yeah,
very good. To learn more about the True Terra program, visit innovativeag.com and under the agronomy section under sustainability. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Crop Talks and Field Walks, and thanks Lillie for joining us.
Thanks for having me, I appreciate it.
Thanks for watching.